Before tapping, always check the content of the carton to ensure it is complete. It is essential that you read the user information in the carton. Always use a standard detergent to clean the section of pipe that you want to tap before mounting the EWE tapping fittings. Place the adapter and the chambered O-ring on the side on the soffit. Then bend the stainless steel retaining strap over the pipe and clip it into the top openings of the adapter with the hemisphere and nuts. Then tighten the nuts evenly with a wrench. Screw the EWE flushing piece to the outlet side of the piston valve. This ensures that the tapping chips are rinsed out in a controlled manner during the tapping process. Move the ball valve in the flushing piece to open and then completely open the lock in the piston valve in an anti-clockwise direction using a tapping wrench. Mount the flushing hose with the GK coupling to the flushing piece. This flushing hose ensures that the tapping chips created during the tapping process are carefully carried away with the water. Screw the EWE tapping device with the left-handed thread in an anti-clockwise direction to the flushing piece and tighten with a tapping wrench. The suitable tapping bit is already mounted to the tapping rod of the EWE tapping device. Now unlock the tapping rod using the tapping wrench and carefully feed the tapping rod through the flushing piece and the piston valve housing to the wall of the pipe until the tapping head connects to the soffit. Once in place, lock the tapping rod into position again. Place the ratchet onto the square of the tapping rod of the tapping device. At the same time, insert the tapping wrench into the holder of the feed. At the start of the tapping process, use the ratchet to turn the tapping rod. The tapping wrench ensures the required feed and the associated lowering of the tapping unit. Please ensure that very little feed is given to guarantee clean tapping results. The pipe tapping process is completed as soon as the tapping rod and feed can be turned freely. The chips created during tapping flow through the flushing piece and the connected flushing pipe together with the medium from the tapped hole. After the end of the tapping process, carefully release the tapping rod from the feed drum. Caution is required here because the water pressure can eject the tapping rod quickly. Once the tapping rod has fully emerged, affix the lock again with a tapping wrench. To close the tapping fittings, place the tapping wrench onto the square of the piston valve housing and turn in a clockwise direction until it reaches the stopper. Close the flushing piece at the outlet of the housing using the green lever. Remove the tapping device with a tapping wrench by turning in a clockwise direction. To position the EWE tapping hole sealing sleeve, lock the tapping hole sealing sleeve into both the brass and also the stainless steel holder of the tapping hole sealing sleeve setting device by slightly turning the inner stainless steel sleeve until you clearly feel it click into place. Mount the tapping hole sealing sleeve setting device to the flushing piece by turning the left-handed thread in an anti-clockwise direction using the tapping device wrench. To release the tapping hole, use the tapping wrench to turn the square of the piston valve in an anti-clockwise direction until it reaches the stopper. The tapping hole sealing sleeve setting device is now under pressure. Then release the lock of the guide rod of the tapping hole sealing sleeve setting device and, by exerting slight pressure, feed the guide rod through the flushing piece and the piston valve housing until it reaches the tapping hole. Then place the tapping wrench into the designated socket holder and turn it downwards until it reaches the soffit stopper. To seal the system, turn the square of the EWE piston valve tapping fittings in a clockwise direction until it reaches the stopper. The tapping hole sealing sleeve setting device can now be dismantled by turning it in a clockwise direction. To create the media supply, dismantle the flushing piece in an anti-clockwise direction. Then screw the PE welded socket to the outlet of the piston valve housing. To fit the telescope fittings, remove the sand disc from the socket in the fittings. Place it onto the matching holder on the upper part of the piston valve and twist to lock it into position. Place the connecting square of the telescope fittings onto the square of the piston and lock into position by inserting a stainless steel pin. In a final step, feed the PE socket of the sleeve downwards over the telescope fittings until it clicks into position on the sand disc. Now you can open and close the piston valve tapping fittings using the installed fittings.